Christian Dior looks today on the Avenue Montaigne exactly as it looked when I started there, which was some years ago. But the interior is completely different. And the whole way everything was done was so different in those days. We would have a lot of fun with friends. We'd have lunch, and then we'd go to the couture shows at 3 o'clock. Did you go? Have you seen Balmain? Have you been to Chanel? And this and that and the other thing, where all the girls would talk, and it was a whole different era. I would go whenever my husband had business. Then I had friends from New York who went all the time, and it used to be fun. Now maybe it's fun again, I don't know, because I haven't done that for, I think, about 10 years. When you would go into the enters, you were seated. Later on, your name may be a bit on the chair as they got bigger, but when they were first in the house of Christian Dior on Avenue Montaigne, you sat in a little chair. They were told you to sit. There was no particular, might be background music, and there would be somebody saying it was number so-and-so and number such and such, and you wrote it down. It was very quiet, very low-key.
C'était surtout de faire des robes que les femmes aiment porter. Elles avaient assez d'être corsetées dans les jaquettes, très serrées, et des jupes très raides et tout ça. Ça s'était passé, ça. On n'était plus en 47. On était en 60.
And the same thing at Givenchy. And Givenchy was around the corner from the Plaza Athénée Hotel, which I love that hotel because it was all very convenient. And because then Saint Laurent eventually was up the street. But Givenchy was smaller than Christian Dior. But this was the sort of old-fashioned way, because the vendeuse that you were assigned to in the early days, and when you sat at the house itself on the little chairs, she would come up afterwards and say, "What can I show you? Would you like to try something?" "Oh, I can't, I have to go," or whatever it is if you didn't like it. And if you did, you would say, "Well, could I see number whatever it was?" I can remember in Dior very carefully, they had a hallway with 3 compartments of a curtain that pulled across, and some of the rooms would be taken, but you would be trying something on and you would see something going past and you would think, "Oh, could I try that one?" you know. And it was wonderful. And the same thing at Givenchy, but much smaller.
Quand on a sa propre personnalité, bien sûr, un compliment vous fait plaisir et un conseil, mais souvent, quand on sait comment s'habiller, elle le savait elle-même, elle n'avait pas besoin de moi. Elle choisissait, ça lui convenait, elle portait, comme j'ai dit, mes couleurs, elle les portait bien. C'était déjà une grande satisfaction pour moi.
Hélène Lusinghausen, who was the directrice of Saint Laurent, she knew all the customers, and she made this one say, "That's good for you, that's not good for you." Yves Saint Laurent was usually wasn't around there a lot.
When you approach designing clothes, you have to think of make clothes that the woman is going to fall in love with, you know. And, you know, if she really wants it, she's going to get it.
Basically, I tried to make clothes that were really beautiful and elegant. I mean, in my mind, if it satisfied me, I said, if I like it, I'm not ashamed to show it. It's someone else's judgment whether they like it or not. So that we leave that to them.
You know, many times people would come and say me, "What do you want me to buy?" I say, "Oh, I don't know. It's up to, no, I think it's, if you didn't want it, I didn't want the person to have it. I think everybody should choose what they like." You know.
My sort of usual thing in those days was maybe 2 daytime things and 2 nighttime things. And maybe you didn't find what you wanted, or, you know, or maybe you found more than you wanted to find.
It's not like going to a department store where you've got the price tag right there. You would talk to your vendeuse about the price, and it might be whispered in your ear. but the price might be different coming from your vendeuse versus the woman across the room who's interested in the same dress because of the value that you have to the couture house.
Whatever price they gave you, particularly if they wanted you to wear their clothes, the price was always right. It wasn't the kind of thing that you bargained with. In my case, I would never do that, but it could happen. I never chose the ones that were all beaded, because the beading was very expensive.
Our kind of embroidery is trying to get out the classical embroidery material use. And there is no limit. We have used mussels and seashell. It could be a chocolate paper froissé. It can be anything. The embroidery was made for the dress. Some other designer, the dress is made for the embroidery. Some designer like Marc Bohan or Monsieur de Givenchy, they come, they say, I want to be the first to see your collection, huh? And I hope you didn't show that to anyone.
I was aware that I'm making expensive clothes, and yes, I'd like to make something that was different in many ways because I wanted to be different from the other designers. And within my collection, I made big collections in the old days. I had as many as 250 models. I did it to satisfy my ego, obviously, you know. If I got onto something I liked it, I would make variations and so forth and so on. But it's redundant because no one can absorb all those things.
The sewing in those days was all done by hand, and I don't think people realize how a little snap, and it's all done by hand, and I would be amazed at everything.
The most luxurious materials were used, the most luxurious trimmings and embroideries were used, but also that it was fitted to you. Even though there might be other women that ordered the same dress, everything was done to your specific measurements. So these are made-to-measure clothes.
On pense toujours que la dernière collection que l'on fait est la meilleure, parce qu'on est encore dans les affres de la création et qu'on a on a recherché ou qu'on a des plus jolies broderies que d'autres années ou qu'on a été mieux inspiré. Ça ne s'arrête pas, vous dessinez, vous dessinez, vous dessinez. Et ça, c'est le drame parce qu'on voudrait, on faisait trop de modèles à la fin et je me faisais attraper par le directeur qui me disait « Mais vous avez fait 200 et quelques modèles, c'est de la folie, ça va durer. »
C'était moi qui réglais tout ce qui était essayage, tout, choix de tissu et choix d'atelier. Ça, c'est sûr. Ça, j'ai jamais confié à personne d'autre.
This is a work where you put a lot of emotion into it, and sometimes it's very difficult. Once I distance myself from a collection, I can look at it completely in a very different way. But while I am working in the collection, it's very difficult for me.
Not everybody cared about it, I guess, but you had an original dress that was made by some wonderful designer, and it was sewn so carefully and beautifully, and the little hem and everything. You don't see that anymore. It's a day that's gone. But it was lovely to be able to look at and see what people did at those times. All of it, all of it. All of it was a special world and a special time. But it used to be fun, and I used to have a good time doing it, and friends and all that sort of. It's all part of the aura there was, but was not that for me anymore. It's a different clientele and different world and different everything. And I think those days, if you could have these beautiful clothes made, it was a wonderful thing. And I was very lucky.